a week before, I was like, "Will you go band to Nairobi?" I was like, "Yeah, I'll go to Nairobi. Let's do it." So I got my Kenya bracelet here, by the way. Here you go.
Nice.
So I got jabbed up, rabies, yellow fever, all of the lot, and it was really good actually. I think honestly, if we'd gone to Argentina, Argentina looked amazing, but I think the delegation in Nairobi had a much greater impact than they might have if they'd just been Argentina. And when I hit the ground and I was meeting everybody, we were looking for like what the opportunity was, and I think basically the opportunity was look, everybody's prepared, over prepared, probably, right, for Argentina. So it'll be really rigid. So you can contrast that with being like kind of an unconference style, being really fluid. And so we got like a videographer. We wanted to profile the delegation. When I say we, I mean the general consensus with the people on the ground. And there's lots of different contents and videos coming out where the delegation is talking to camera about what the constitution is, how they got into Cardano, origin stories, video podcasts, this kind of stuff. And the other interesting thing that we did was, this is a hypothesis, it was my theory, but I was like, I bet no one's planned to be translating Japanese content, right? And 40% or something of ADA is in Japan. And I think it's like 38, 39% in the top 50. But there's a really recent data visualization. I could probably grab it from Slack or wherever it was, that shows the overall ADA. And even though ADA is 40%, when you look at the graph of everything, it's such a large amount of voting power and possible funding there, right? So my point of view in Nairobi was like, one of the things that we can do is do a real fast turnaround on the content and get it translated into Japanese. So from Japan's point of view, right, we're live now, so don't judge me. But I'm like, no one will even know what's going on in Argentina because the only thing they'll be hearing about is Nairobi, right? So like, I kind of got really enthusiastic and pumped, and that's what I was trying to bring to Nairobi and just help everybody tell their story and find like the value in it, right? So that it was a meaningful experience. I think it was. And then the background context was like I had a horrendous eye infection. And I was dealing with that. So this is me looking good.
Could you see it behind your glasses or?
I got a picture where we're having cigars and my eyes are literally, I look like a mole. So it
looked good from my perspective. I mean, I was here in Indiana watching, the event from, in both places, Nairobi and Argentina, and it was, for me, it was cool to see how the two, locations were interacting with each other.
And the other thing, maybe I deserve to be like, but when you meet people face to face, it's just a different experience. Like we could hang out together all day, every day for the next few weeks over the holiday period, but until we meet and sit in the same room and we're face to face, it's just different, man. And so I was still talking to a lot of people in Nairobi. I think there's a lot of interesting stuff that could come out of bridging Africa, Japan, and the rest of the Cardano community. So yeah, I think it was really good. There's some brilliant content. Yeah.
So how do you think we could bridge between sort of like America, English speaking, to Japan, and how we connect those communities? Like you said, 40% is in Japan. Seems like we're all on the same team. How do we all get together and communicate?
So you got to think about the value people want. What Japan wants, as far as I understood it when I went there early in the year, is two things. One, it's an onerous burden to always have to be producing all the content and translating it into Japanese. And the Japanese community, is more concentrated, than say the English speaking, which is really like had a Cambrian explosion. Everyone's an influencer, everybody's got an opinion, everybody's building, right? So, but Japan hasn't had that kind of Cambrian explosion, but they want it, right? So the first thing is that content for them is arduous, and so if you want to provide value, you take that weight on your shoulder and you provide the content, right? The second thing is that they want access. Japanese projects, like if you look at Catalyst, and there's a load of interesting projects, and they want access to other markets. So I think like I don't have the answer, but the starting point I would have is like, this is what I was saying.
He's translating articles and stuff.
Well, I when I was in Japan, I'm like, imagine if you had some kind of buddy system or something, right, Josh, where I'm saying to you, would you like an introduction to Japan, right? And in return for that introduction, you need to introduce a non-competitor Japanese project to markets that you know. So there could be one way you could structure it as an exchange,
Quick
because I think that kind
of thing. Yeah.
well, that's what builds relationships, right? That's really, it's not just what's the immediate value exchange, it's what's the lasting relationship between Josh and the people that he meets in Japan, right? I think that's how you end up having kind of like, if you repeat that over a number of different times, you get kind of non-linear growth because people start connecting the dots themselves, right? You don't have to be told. Oh, John Wick joined the chat. What's going on, John? Kyle.
Oh, I've been here, man. Yeah, I've been listening to you for a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think Japan's
Normally
really
fixing
interesting.
a bike. Why are you not fixing a bike, Carl?
It's early. I'll get on it in just a minute. I got drained out of
But so another question for you, Ben. Sorry. So do you think if someone like AdaPulse, we produce articles all the time. If we were to then add into our proposal a Japanese translator, do you think that would go down well then?
Yeah, I think it would go down well. I feel like where my head's at really, I think the DREPs and DREP maxing, and that's where my head is at the moment. It's like you could do it as an individual. I think you would get some traction and some value in that. But I think the biggest problem at the moment, and I've been articulating in different ways, and actually, Kyle, lately now I want to talk about what the value is in it for DREPs, but just zooming out, everyone's talking about we need more DREPs, everyone needs more active delegation, and like I don't dispute it, that's true, right? But what's that film where it's like, what kind of American are you? You know what I mean? Like, I want to be like, what kind of DREP are you, right? Are you just literally, you're just going to vote for whatever your understanding of the ecosystem, you have a part of it, but you don't have the whole, so you don't have the full picture, you're limited by your line of sight, you're just going to vote on the issues that you know that are important to you. And that's rational, that's logical, that's where I think we are today, right? But I think that DREPs have far more potential actually to solve some of the problems that I know at least two of you on this call have been frustrated with in the past, because I think DREPs can kind of hold other parts of the ecosystem accountable. I think DREPs, if they were to organize as a body, if they were to self-organize as a group, right, and start to say things like, look, we're going to exchange our perspectives, right, not on a one-to-one discussion, but at scale, right? We're going to let people know where we stand, what part of the ecosystems we represent, what the pain points, the challenges are, and then what we want from certain entities. I don't know.
I mean, we're going to do that shit anyways, right? We're just going to do it, and the results, what we want, is going to be in the vote that comes out. I mean, that's just how we always have operated as a community. It's going to happen. Now, it may not be as coordinated as we like initially, but there's the only uniform truth across DREPs is that every single one of those things, right? They don't have a complete picture, and so. It may be uninformed is the wrong word, but they're not fully informed. You know what I'm saying? So it's like they got their visibility, and with that come biases or whatnot. And so, I
you
honestly
also suggested many are ruining their reputation already, and they don't even know it.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
Did you go into more detail?
Well, you got $2 billion at stake. You can kind of see how people are aligning, and I guarantee you, everybody involved thinks it's going to play a way that it's not going to play out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, kind of what I'm getting at. But as far as the actual, people in the reputations, there's a lot. I mean, the reality is, I've got a good view of what the hell's going on. I'm kind of in the product committee, and so the root of that is, okay, let's drill down into what's being proposed next year and the visibility I have into. Not everything is in alignment with what we need as a community to define vision, partially because that vision is yet to be defined. And so there's just, I don't want to name names specifically, but there are initiatives that.
It's not a good idea. I know you want to name names.
No, not necessarily. I like to let people fuck their own shit up. You know what I'm saying? but there's initiatives that, in my opinion, have no business being funded by the Treasury, and a lot of other people share the same opinions, right? So that's obvious. There's also, missteps. I think there's missteps in every organization, and that's obvious. As far as
natural, some of it.
I mean, when is IO going to start doing magic tricks? I mean, y'all got any magic tricks? I mean, shit. CF turned Catalyst into crappy lists like that, So, like, what do y'all got?
I don't even, I won't get into the politics of it, but I think they probably would do us all a favor and got a conversation started. Whatever side of like the aisle you're on. But I want to make a point, Carl, right, about one thing that maybe you'll agree with me with. There's a lot of historically, there's like these different gatekeepers that restrict certain kind of information, right? Wherever that is, right? I don't want to go and but like whether you think Catalyst has got certain information to keep to their chest, or CF or IO or whoever it is, but someone's got some information, and you've got to go to them to get it, right? Sometimes they don't want to give it to you. Sometimes they're just not very good at giving it to you. So maybe there are other organizations that aren't communicating as well. Right. So it's because it's this kind of top-down approach. But what I'm trying to say is, like, even when I was listening to you just now, you're saying like, oh, my viewpoint's this, or I can see this from my position in the product. Right.
Yep.
What if you can access other viewpoints at scale without having to come in and have a one-to-one discussion with them? Because like to get Carl's input, in a sense, I have to come to Carl to get it. Right? There's a burden, and everybody has to do it. And the other side of the scales for you is you've only got so much time. You can't give everybody your insight, right? So when I think about DREPs, I think like, are they able to say like where they stand to some degree at a regular interval, so that I can see that Chris pointed out that he wears these different hats in an ecosystem, and he's called out these challenges and pain points at these different points, right? It's a really interesting thing, because if you as a DREP, Chris, could see what other DREPs, what roles they played in the ecosystem, and what pain points and stuff that they'd reported, you may be able to find people that you could form coalitions with, or that would have a common interest, and you might have shared grounds. The point I'm trying to make is navigating the ecosystem itself is a challenge. Most people don't understand the whole all the moving parts, but being able to navigate DREPs and know who's representing what part of the ecosystem and where they stand on certain issues, without having to go through the whole Twitter, without having to go through like some platform.
I really like where you're headed with this, because like currently now with U.S. elections, like politicians will do a website with my policy positions. You can go see.
Well, we've got metadata. Why don't we just index the metadata? And
that's it. The metadata thing is like, I agree. That's where we need to get to. I try to cover some quick ground, because I want to kind of end up going, come on guys, join me in this endeavor, right? But it won't make sense if I just jump there. But at the minute, I didn't, Carl, last time we spoke, we had 100 people, now we've got about 190 people in that DREP forum on Twitter, right? That community.
Okay.
What I'm trying to say is this: DREPs have to get together and communicate how they want to communicate and self-organize. Right? They have to get together and talk about how they want to talk about it. I think that's outside of Intersect in the short term, right?
Yeah, but some DREPs are private. Some DREPs aren't public.
Are some DREPs private? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I mean, it's totally possible. Yeah, some SPOs, some stake pools are private, right? Like we have this luxury of permissionless systems, and so my thing is, I don't want to create a conduit that can be corrupted. Right? I go put out all this effort. I go and contribute to this massive forum and this massive group. That's the point of influence. I love that we influence each other already. Now, there are some DREPs that I've seen who gain traction, in my opinion, are less sophisticated in ability than other DREPs. And I guess they may be reporting, or I'd honestly rather just prefer to stay. So it's early to court DREPs. Here's my opinion: it's early to court DREPs and come together when I'm still trying to take a stake. It's like it's early competitive SPOs, right? If you think about it, right? Like, so that's another angle to think about too. And I'm just game theorying it out. This is what I think about.
Ben, you make a point though. I I think where Kyle's coming from too, and I kind of fall on this side of the equation, is I don't think we ever want to set a social expectation that DREPs have to do X, Y, or Z. I think the protocol allows for people to choose that just by moving who they stake to, right? But I do think it's a good tool that if DREPs want to use it to coordinate and talk, or if they want to give more information about their thoughts and feelings and their stances or conflicts of interest, etc., that they perceive to be a conflict of interest, I don't think it's a bad tool. I just think as long as the social contract doesn't become, if you don't do that, then you shouldn't be a DREP or whatever like that, because I do think anonymity is something at least us in the West take for granted a lot. Whereas other folks who they need to stay private for safety reasons potentially, that I think that still needs to be something we just keep in mind. Personally, that's just me though.
I agree. Like the base minimum standpoint is that you become a DREP and you have your ADA delegation and you're going to vote on what's important to you. So that's the minimum, right? So everybody can do that. I fully agree, right? But what if you want to attract delegation so you're more influential? What if there are specific issues where you need to persuade other people to vote along with them, right? That's the point that I'm making. Then you need to know how other DREPs are thinking and where they stand to work out where you might form a coalition. But the other thing is, if you're an ADA holder, how am I going to, it's going to be the same old days of Twitter, right? Where basically everybody gets their information from their favorite influencer, and it's like Chinese whispers, because everybody's only getting it from one trusted source. And I'm trying to say you need to open up this kind of knowledge or information so people can see these are the people that represent these parts of the ecosystem, but who else represents other parts of the ecosystem that I care about or I want to see being developed. Let me make one last point, because I kind of segued there into a point I wasn't really trying to make. The point I'm really trying to make is there are entities like Insect and CF and IO, and I think sometimes they kind of relate to other entities or working groups and special interest groups or whatever. They kind of operate as bodies communicating with each other. How, even though DREPs may differ on lots of different issues, right? How about the fact that, like, if DREPs can't represent themselves as a group, as a community, how are they going to represent the ecosystem? DREPs need to be able
constituents and they go vote.
So
they have constituents and they vote.
So when you say constituents, you mean what? The delegation, the people that are voting? Yeah.
I think constituents is a good word for it, actually.
It's organic, I like it.
That's the word we use in politics over here.
We're able to build a new relationship with the holders of ADA, or DREPs are, and I think that all the unique ways that that's happening will be very interesting. I think we're going to see smart contracts that come together with DREP power. Inevitable. It's going to be like the ISPO. You add a little trick to it, and you fuck a token or something. There's going to be something crazy. And we see all kinds of.
We just saw what just happened with the CF swinging a little bit of weight, and a lot of people are talking about the future as far as governance is concerned.
Yeah, the CF.
Are we going to see DREP starting to get a little bit more serious about
maybe
their role in governance? And
maybe, or they may be a little disinterested. The CF is single-handedly nuke cattle, and they also flat-footed Intersect, because nobody in the community will vote for a line item that funds cattle next year based on that. That was a wild shot, and so strategic in mind. It should have happened last fund. It happened. Not as everybody's getting ready to fucking springboard into the bull market. That was just silly. But whatever. Time is what it is. Fuck.
No, I do think we're gonna see, and I think it's needed to where it's always good to have a hammer or a screwdriver. You don't ever have to use them, but as long as they're in the toolbox to be able to use them, I don't think it's a bad thing. So, I think for coalitions to form, we're going to need some type of communication tool, I think, for that to even happen. So I do think there's a need that hasn't even potentially even been realized yet. So, Ben, to that point, I do think that's a check in the box of the positive of that. I think there might be product market fit.
When you say coalitions, you're talking about like political groups, essentially.
Yeah, we're now into the realm of social engineering at this point. We've gone off the tech side.
Well, we still haven't hit the vectors. The vectors are going to be as soon as people start hitting product market fit. I mean, think about it. Oh, I just got a billion transactions. Okay, that is enough data in UTXO to play ball, right? Like now you're in the game. You get 4 or 5 innings to do that. What Ben is possibly referring to as coalitions to counter that, right? Like, and that is not something that is, I take lightly or trivial. That may very well be. You know, I don't see it as one entity as CF. I see it about 3 dozen.
Yeah.
I still see right now a lot of D-reps are individual contributors, or they're already saying politics. They're like, what is it in the UK, Josh, when they like leave Labour or Tory? They're independent, right? So they're all these kind of
or Lib Dems. There are smaller parties as well. Well, Lib Dems did quite well in the last election. So the splinter, well, almost splinter. There's still a major party, the Lib Dems, but you know, you get the smaller ones like the Green. We have the Monster Raving Loony Party at one point. But but we're still mainly a 2-party system with some other chunks.
There'll be coalitions, and a lot of it is independence now. But I'm still making the argument that D-reps themselves ought to be able to have a meta conversation about being D-reps. And D-reps may want to say, as a group, as a self-organizing group, that what we want from this entity, that entity, and this entity are these things. Well, this is our expectations, right? And it's not that you're forcing anyone to say like, oh, what am I trying to say? Like, oh well, 72% of us want this, so therefore that's what D-reps want. I'm not saying that. I'm saying
like a whip.
Yeah, like because of the metadata standards, like Carl.
That's what would concern me. As soon as I said like, oh, you mean like a party? I start thinking whips and people being forced to vote in certain ways to
we need like a Reddit for the D-reps, so there can be multi-convos. People can all, I mean, it's Reddit. You can use that.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Is are we thinking about like a UI? Would that be a part of GovTools? Where would this UI and this interface exist?
To index the metadata and display it as, I mean, like you can, and obviously people would go back and clean up their metadata, and maybe it makes sense to restructure the metadata better used for that format. But if, we're going to take time to do metadata. That should be everything a D-rep needs to do, at least to get his part out. Now, as far as communicating opinions, that's interesting. Providing a forum where D-reps can do that. It's all about constituency, right? I guess if you want to throw out a whole bunch of opinions, I don't know.
I feel like it'd be really, really cool. Honestly, I think it almost, to me, it's the Socratic method, and we could just have some type of just general quorum where everybody can that's a D-rep can go and just have open combos, or even have breakout combos. Again, I think it's the Reddit format, but probably
but I mean, I'm looking at it as a whole. All that, I mean, we thought there was bullshit drama. Like you're not part of the super D-rep club. It's like, all right, man, just leave me. Like I don't know.
I mean,
I want to see an ecosystem.
What D-rep is really. Sorry.
Do what?
I like the idea of a conduit for D-reps to express their ideas. Constituent can go look, and that gives me broader visibility.
Kyle, do you have your fan going?
No, that's not me.
I have a fan.
That's somebody.
Hang on, let me mute my mic and see if it's my shitty laptop.
Because Kyle, every time Kyle starts talking, I feel like it mutes. Like I can't hear part of it.
No, he just never has a good mic. That's Kyle's problem. Like,
I have a great fucking mic. I just don't use it. I got
it was Ben.
You got a SMB7 microphone. What the?
Yeah.
Use your damn mic, Kyle.
I know. He keeps it 35 feet away.
Plugged in. I don't think I've seen you once with a decent mic plugged in.
No. Then you have Josh and me over here using our studio mics.
Yeah. Oh, Chris. What mic are you using?
All right, I'll get this one.
Chris has
is-
an arrangement. Of,
This one is an MXL 990 with upgraded diaphragm in it.
Yeah, it's it couldn't be something normal. It had to be like.
Chris,
And I replaced the capacitors in it with
You did.
poly caps.
dude,
Ceramic caps are microphonic by nature. I don't know why they put them in microphones. It's terrible.
We got
idea.
trim in the chat. Trim
Yeah.
in the chat.
Like Chris knows too much about microphones. Like,
Hydra-based D-Rep. Ooh.
Right. Oh,
I mean,
Well, actually, Trim explained this Hydra thing to me, where it's like, while it's in flight, you could have an NFT with it's changing or something like this. So imagine if you had a map of the ecosystem with different DFs in it, but as issues are going live, they could be pointing it out. It could be dynamic, But I don't know enough about Hydra. I have to get and talk to Trim about whether it's possible. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Yeah, but what's the what's the analog interface to the DREP, right? Like that. I mean, what is the interface change? Because if I get that. Okay, I'm going to use this tool. I'm going to put some information in this tool. It's work. It's a little bit tedious. What is the life cycle?
All right,
Like, how does that work for me to update? Because shit changes like every.
So give me. Let's just have a creative bubble for 60 seconds, and then you can pop it afterwards, Carl. Right. So basically, let's start with something like, imagine in 2025, if there was a Brave campaign that would hero different wallets, right? That would allow people to vote for like their DVAP. And we said to these wallets, like, this campaign's going to happen. It's going to be big, and we can spotlight you, and we can broadcast it out to kind of like Brave or something like that, right? And then the wallets are actually the distribution channel, right, through which you could try and get more delegation to DREP. So the idea is, how do we get the ecosystem to be more decentralized? We want to see more ADA delegated to more different DREPs, right? So rather than the top 50 having 85%, well, the voting power, maybe you want to have, this is arbitrary, but maybe you want to have 85% of the top 100, right? But for people to decide who they're going to vote for, you can't expect them to go through a directory, right, and click open all these different people's profiles. I think you would need some way to navigate it, like a map of the ecosystem. So first of all, you can understand the whole, and you can see the different pins or flags for the different DREPs in the parts of the ecosystem that they were the most experienced in, that they were representing. And you could explore it in that way, and then click on different pins to find the DREPs that you thought were most relevant for the area that you're interested in.
Yeah, see, y'all did a good job with SPOs showing, like, hey, you know what I'm saying, distributing stake early in that regard. But I guess nothing was really done about DREPs, and now you've got clumps of clusterfucks. Interesting. I don't know. Okay, I see the problem. That's interesting. Okay. Oh man.
It's almost like
my mind just like, okay, so expect a social issue where, however you do this, if you display this in the wallet and show different smaller DREPs are going to start attacking markets. Right? You're going to get all. Oh no.
Oh yeah, no, Carl. I know what you're talking about, Carl. I lived that. Like, how many delegation rounds they go through, and like it's getting shot down.
But you're not wrong as far as I want to look at the DREPs and I want to make an intelligent decision. Most people only know they're one DREP, and it's the YouTuber Bobohead or whoever the fuck that people know. Yeah, I'm with you.
And not only that, but like I won't name products, right? But there are products out there where they have baskets, right? So like back in the day when we're going through the SPO stuff, for anyone that wasn't around at that time, in fact, it's where I cut my teeth, right? Because what happened with the SPOs is all the SPOs are angry because there's a hierarchy around in Daedalus, the way you would look at which state pool you're going to delegate to. And
I suffer badly from that, yeah.
Yeah, and I did a survey, it was like 5,200 people. And the key takeaway was like, the problem with it was there was only one hierarchy, but actually people have different values. Some of them want to vote to mission driven, some of them might have liked to vote to bare metal, pools, others might have wanted the highest ROI. So you should have been able to have different views. One could argue, right? But also, you might have wanted to have like baskets where I could say, look, 80% of my stake, I just want the highest ROI, but 20% I'm going to delegate it to mission-driven stuff because that's what I care about. Right?
No one was really expecting that at the beginning, though. Like baskets, they knew it was going to be one stake, and I think everyone was fine with it. It's just that certain things got in small pool's way. Like me being a big victim of all of it, you know, having the stake and then, you know, having enough stake for now to mint blocks, but the D parameter was messing me up. But
You got fucked by the D?
yeah,
You know, the other mistake I made at that time was I did a state pool school, and in hindsight, what I did at the time was try to open up.
Okay, all right, I got you, Carl. All right.
What, did I miss something?
That was delayed. Holy crap! There comes Adam. Adam's back for that one.
I missed it. I missed it too, Ben.
What?
Happened?
Are you kidding me?
I was typing. I was replying to somebody.
No, I just thought he was agreeing with me enthusiastically.
That was the best joke, I think, in the past, I don't know, 24 hours. Well played, sir.
Yeah, I got fucked by the D as well, but
Oh, gosh. This is why we can't have nice things.
yeah. Anyway, I forgot what we were talking about prior.
Deal do that to you, bro.
Anthony's, I feel like he's about to spit
is that
something.
a reference to the
Ben
whistleblower
was
thing
talking about the
yesterday?
data list listing,
Hey, Adam.
being able to sort.
And the D parameter.
The other thing is,
he's right. Sorry, yeah, I remember now. I think no one was really asking for that sort of split at that point. It was more sort of later. We thought, oh, it will be nice because now there's so many pools, and I want to sort of, you got people with different missions and things like that. I don't think a lot of users were expecting people to have missions necessarily going into it. But really,
it's very hard to differ.
the first ones up there, the first ones that appeared, got the stake. Really.
Can
It was
you,
very hard to differentiate yourself as a state pool operator, right? Because it was on the surface like a very similar thing that you were offering. I read a good article about like OnlyFans, where it's the same problem, right? Where they're all offering the same product, and actually it's a case study on who are the most marketing geniuses, you know? And the point I was making with state pool operators is originally when I did that course, I was like, everyone could be a state pool operator, which was a terrible thing to do, because what I should have done is allowed people to qualify themselves, right? Like if you're going to be a state pool operator, you got to love to struggle. You got to love it. You got to love struggling, right? And you're going to have to be technical, but you're going to have a marketing hat as well, right? And so I think that's important for people to be able to understand like what it's going to take to do something and be a contender, you know, to be effective at it, right? And that's what I'm talking about with this
Yeah,
thing.
I think a lot of the emphasis was on the technical side. What it was for me, at least, anyway, was can I do this? Because I was told I couldn't in the early days.
Who told you that?
A friend of mine. I think he worked at IOG at the time.
It wasn't me.
No.
Yeah.
But but that was way before the ITN, so it probably did seem way technical. The ITN was probably, I mean, I did have a pool on the ITN just about at the end, but you know, that was more technical than, you know, what it became to be. Especially you've got like CN tools and stuff like that. So whipping up a pool now is really easy. But yeah, like you say, I think it's all about marketing, and I don't know how people do it. I think I should. Anthony, how did you do it?
How did I do what?
How did you create, you know, with Bloom, the brand and the marketing behind the stake pool?
That's a good question. Well, I learned from Bitcoin mining in the early days before pools were created and there were individual miners. I watched the emergence of commercial mining happen to the point where hobbyist miners kind of dropped off. So I knew the, I guess, somewhat commercialization of stake pool operation would occur at some point in time. So that's kind of the branding we went with. Plus, when I was Bitcoin mining back in the day, I had a whole list of people that I had met with and pitched to about setting up a huge Bitcoin mining operation, and that was in 2012-ish. And regretfully, they had denied the offer. So when I came back around and I told them there was, a second opportunity similar to the Bitcoin mining operation, but better, more liquid, you get to hold your own asset. All you have to do is stake it. They were kind of all in at that point. So setting up Bloom on that level was I had done it for years before. I had been in crypto for a while, so in onboarding people into crypto for a long while. So it was, I don't know, I was kind of prepared for it, and I watched the ITN go down. I wasn't really worried about running a pool in the ITN. Pay was running a pool at the time. I was just kind of setting up the branding and staging delegates before we even had an actual pool on mainnet.
I mean, Pay actually seemed a good off ramp into Bloom from after the ITN. So
we essentially took, because his pool name was originally Pay Ada. I did all the Bloom branding. The pools are named after my daughter. And so I built that out, did the branding for it, and was kind of like, Pay and I partnered at that point. And I was like, look, I took care of all this. I got these delegates ready. You have the marketing side. You got a good viewership on YouTube. I was like, let's get together and smash the pools out. And he's like, all right, let's do it. And the rest is history.
Cool, man. Yeah. So that's what that's what I was missing then. I should have been a few years ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it was, developing relationships over many, many years and being, the crypto guy locally. Everyone that wanted to get into crypto, I'd go to their house and set up their wallets and so on and so forth. So when
I think my cicada idea would have worked. I feel like I was just thinking about it today. If it was still going, I could have had this mystery account of cicada that no one knew who it was, and it would have been like an Ada whale type scenario.
Well, cicada pool popped up at one point in time. I don't know where it went, but there was a cicada pool here.
Yeah, that was me.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah, I got the reason.
He just doxed himself.
No,
only on Spaceplace.
The thing is, you're working with, coders, hackers. They can, So I set up the website thinking it was all safe to have all these puzzles, and then Smalg just looked at it and went, "Oh, let's have a look at this." Oh yeah, figured it all out, and he just went, "Boom! All the puzzles done." And it was like, you just ruined my life.
I'm gonna shift gears really fast to what?
Real quick, just in some Argentina update, and I don't know if you know this, but apparently the Bloom handle is coming home.
Someone's sending Bloom.
What?
Did somebody snipe your Bloom pool Ada handle?
Yeah.
What happened?
Did Kyle do some mischievous thing?
No, I just heard some shit. No, I totally innocent.
All right, Ryan.
What?
Kay, I think I recognized where you were headed, so go ahead and get into that gear you were going to.
Oh, I was talking about K-Tours. K-Tours posted on Twitter. I made a post about the foundation, not with them actually voting, because I don't care that they voted, but I care with the public perception of and the communication behind it, or lack thereof. And so I was posting that. So K-Tours, if you're listening or you see this, you're awesome, and we love your contributions. It has nothing to do with you. I think that, to quote Chris on the Space yesterday, there is a particular person in charge of the foundation who's been rather silent, and sending out his other people to handle the shitstorm that they caused by how they did what they did. Not what they did, how they went about doing it. So I just want to be very clear. My qualm is not with the wonderful people who are boots on the ground that are working in the organization. it is with leadership or lack thereof, and communication or lack thereof with the community for which you are supposed to be serving as a non-profit entity. There's my comment. There.
Did you send that to Husky?
No, I did not.
Did you guys?
I mean, that was my number one observation throughout the last several years has been that, well, Frederick hasn't been at the head of that organization the entire time, but since he's been there, when he first joined, it was one thing, but in the last handful of years, the only time I personally see him is when there's a photo op. Nicholas, that guy, he kicks ass. Matthias kicks ass. A lot of these guys, they're rock stars. And they're having to deal with, the pressure of the community, and I don't know. That's my take.
Might be a little harsh.
That dude's from the banking side, though. He's there to make the connections from legacy to blockchain. I don't think he's.
Well, when is he going to start doing that part of it?
Well, I don't know. It probably takes a long time. I mean, we learned about all the hurdles of dealing with regulatory compliance, not only with drip drops, but like in our attempts to set up Main Street. I mean, that was a fucking joke, because the reality of the situation is that it would cost us a couple $100,000 to realistically build out an MVP of Main Street with all the third-party services we need. But it's a few $1 million for us to become regulatory compliant and get all the licensing we need. It's absurd. It was like 10 times the cost to actually build it, just to get the licensing to be able to use it and build.
Sure, I get what you're saying, but the difference there is that our leadership was public about it.
Wait, hold on. Yes, somebody asked. Somebody said I called CF a money-grubbing something. No, I said they're in smog mode. They are sitting on their 600 million ADA, and I personally feel that they are interpreting their mandate as a very loose term. I think they're okay with the status quo being what it is, and they like to be able to make payroll and have perpetual payroll. That's what I think. And to Anthony's point, the big difference I see in the CF and you guys is you don't have 600 million ADA that you're sitting on to try to make things work.
You have
exactly, right?
Kind of inspired me to go get some more fucking ADA, and I hope a lot of other people do. I mean, like that, it was a bold move for the statement being made to say, hey, I'm just going to shit on the board. And that's what it was. They just shat on the board. Like,
yeah. What is nuance? I don't know.
What did they get, though? They got 2 billion ADA to begin with.
No, they got I think it was about 500 million.
500 million. So they've just been stacking it and staking. And
yeah. Which, compared to other ecosystem participants, that's fine. But let's be real. So everyone's like, let's increase the participation. Honestly, I'm gonna be honest. If someone's not that in tune with what's going on, fuck them. I don't want them to participate, and then they're just shitting on the board again, right? Like that's what it really equates to if you're not vested in the ecosystem. So I'd rather have entrepreneurs be successful and earn ADA and gain stake in the ecosystem, right? And then, I think that's how it's going to go, anyways. But
I wrote a letter to Frederick once, and I never ended up sending it, and it was shortly after we worked with the CF closely.
Oh, that's a good story.
I never told this story on Spaceplace before.
No, I think you have.
No, I haven't. I specifically never said anything about it because I thought it was distasteful.
Right.
I mean, it puts it into perspective of what we're dealing with here at CF. So when we had Token as an early NFT marketplace and minting platform, CF reached out to us to create an NFT for something called the Renaissance Awards, which were
I forgot about that.
I think it was in Italy, and it was a video production.
It was France.
Yeah, France. It was some video production award ceremony, and basically they were going to NFT the video that wins first place, and the winners were going to get an NFT for participating or whatever. So we got allocated a few people from CF to walk them through the process of minting the NFTs and getting all the metadata that we needed, and just really simple tasks. And it was alarming to see how disconnected they were to Cardano. None of them had wallets. None of them were ADA holders. None of them were staking. None of them had ever had an NFT, owned an NFT.
They didn't know how to stake.
Yeah. And so it was just bizarre, you know, seeing how many community members that are here that are, you know, multiple times more knowledgeable on the blockchain and holding digital assets and managing digital assets. And it was a little bit concerning knowing that they're the CF. And then later on in time, we finally got through it. And the real kick in the balls was
you and I stayed up until 2 a.m. one night writing documentation.
It was weeks of work, just coddling them through the process. And then after,
Tell them what the agreement was first before you give them the hit.
I don't even remember what it was. It was like a shout out in the article, wasn't it? We get some sort of publication. Yeah, and then the publication comes out, and Token is mentioned one time as the platform that they just minted the NFTs on, and it was like it was such a kick in the balls after that. After that amount of time was spent working with them, and then shortly after, we released Drip Drops, and someone who I won't name reached out to us and was like, "Hey, I put my wallet address in."
It was Jeremy Firster. I'll say his name.
Oh, you motherfucker. He said, I put my wallet address in and I couldn't find any tokens. And we looked up his wallet address and he wasn't staked. He wasn't staking. We're like, what the fuck? Aren't you like the ambassador or something of the community? Aren't you supposed to be participating in what we're doing here? And so, yeah, every time we've had to deal with CF on a one-on-one basis, it was just an absolute clusterfuck. And I don't know how experienced they actually are in blockchain, or if they give a fuck. Like, it should be mandatory that
they have some people there now who are they know exactly what the hell. I mean, they have rock stars there now.
There's a divide.
I'm sure they do, but the minimum requirement should be that you have ADA, you're staked, you know the basics of Cardano.
Yeah, I mean, with all due respect, though, I think they have changed drastically over the past couple of years.
I hope so, because
I believe there's operational integrity in what they do. My question is they're not very. I don't know if they've communicated very well their intentions, and that blow to Catalyst was ruthless. Like.
It could have been they're so tone deaf that they didn't even realize what they were doing was about to just implode.
No, that was a precision strike.
Now, a problem that we also have
it was a precision strike, because what it forces a total reconsideration of the budget. Any budget that moves forward with any amount of money for Catalyst is dead on arrival. There's no way anybody in hell is going to be like, no way. Why are we going to piss away that? And I guess they didn't want Catalyst. It's the perfect thing for them to position to maneuver if they want to position to become an NBO. Like, to me, I just see so many. If it were a strategic thing, and I'm fighting for relevancy, and that's not just the only motive too. Like, to them, because it plays right into the narrative of we're moving into proof of stake. You know, time to grow the fuck up, because if we don't do it, somebody else will. Like, you want Pop to spank you on the butt before you get your ass kicked at the fucking bar, right? Like,
I love that analogy. But okay, but like,
it's a precision strike. It's an arguably a good move, and that's why some of the community is applauding it. You know.
Well, okay, so I have a couple of questions. One, again, like I said, I don't have a problem with them voting. The protocol allows it. You know, we play with the tools we got, and so that is what it is. I have a question though, and this is just they're a not-for-profit, but I know they're domiciled in Switzerland at this point, and I know that has different implications as far as, you know, how they're theoretically supposed to operate. And maybe I'm just ignorant to that fact, but I would hope that in the fact that we're having to sit here and speculate, that's my biggest issue. We shouldn't have to speculate about anything with the foundation. They should be so transparent with their actions in the front end and they should be telegraphing. Like, I don't care about having memorandums of understanding with business deals. That's fine. But don't hide behind those to not let the community know your intentions, your actions going forward, why you're going to do things. We shouldn't be finding out and having to do a post-mortem from you all as to why you did what you did, right?
Well, it was a bit strange just after the summit. And then right at the end of the voting round, two days before, was it? And then bam, it's like, oh, I mean, I'm not in it, but it was like a bit of a, whoa, okay, is there any point me voting now? Like,
oh yeah, no, yeah, they destroyed it, of course. I mean, but you got big Ada players that are down to do it. They just to do that. I get it. You're right. This is what it is. It's an excellent.
The choice that they made, though, they looked well thought out. It wasn't. They didn't pick up random, and it didn't seem to me.
I mean, some of them were well thought out, but back to, you know, a point made earlier is that, you know, don't get me wrong, there is a lot of sophistication in the CF, but to that nature, I'm guaranteed some of that expertise is not well versed in, you know, strategic implementations of our space, right? So there's going to be some shit. So, yeah, there's some stuff that I definitely disagree with, is what I'm saying.
I mean, the gripe seems to be mainly with sort of management end rather than, because you've got all the people down below who are working hard and grinding, you know, and doing what they really believe in. It seems to be more management decisions.
Correct.
The problem.
Bye, guys. I got to go.
Many hugs.
Bye.
Adam, what do you think about everything?
I mean, kind of one of those inevitabilities, I think. That's kind of what I feel like. I also agree with you that, or what I guess what was previously said, they should have said it at the beginning of the fund. Like, we are planning to vote with this much ADA. We are currently reviewing the categories, and we're going to be using an assessment. I think that would have been the decent thing to do. I've got a lot of friends over at CF. I've got a lot of friends in all the branches, and you're going to have politics everywhere. So I think it's just, you know, we as a community need to sort of look at these, some of these disagreements that the entities have and say, let's just keep going, because they're going to do what they do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that is the best way to look at it.
Yeah, what the CF did in and of itself didn't bother me at all. It was the methodology, because as soon as I saw those numbers, I immediately thought there's only one way you can achieve what they achieved in the categories, and that's step number one. So these are the categories we're gonna wipe out. So what proposals in category X are we willing to put our voting power on? Let's put these over here in this rainbow table or whatever you want, wherever you want to put it. Okay, what combination of these gets us closest to 100% of that category? Okay, these are the ones we're going to vote for. That was the methodology behind it. That was step number one.
Well,
If it was like 60% or 73% or something, that would have been one thing. But
no, that was probably a step, Chris, and that makes sense operationally. They probably had a very short list that was shortlisted to a short list, and they said, okay, what's the best way we can make this reach 100 while prioritizing? You know, I mean, they probably just didn't do that. They knew, maybe as a directive going in there, that we're going to optimize our voting power, of course, because that's what happened, right? So I get that, but I mean, it was calculated, and I would like to see the bulleted reasons transparently, and that I mean, because then we're just left to assumption. And I get it if it's strategic. I get it if they wanted to better position themselves, and they don't like certain things that are happening, and they think that what they're doing is in defense of betterment of Cardano or the Treasury or whatever. But you got to put your cards on the table. Shitting on the board like that is it makes CF less of a entity and more of just an ADA holder in my mind. You know, like
Right.
it was very.
But it's the second time in 1 month where they showed up at the end of a process and said, "Here's our thing. Here's the thing." So the same thing happened with the Constitution, right?
Well, they're here, and they have a fuck
our version.
That's what they're saying. They said,
What
"Hey,
Elon Musk does.
yeah, we got ADA, and here the fuck we are, and we're gonna swing it around." So there's I mean, it's they're gonna let it off the hook. Probably we can have more ADA. To Ben's point, it makes sense to be able to sound the alarm and go bop the shit out of them from a community perspective. But I don't want to create something so stupid that we can't put down if we need to, you know.
But I mean, in some way, it does protect Catalyst in the sense that while Catalyst is maturing,
Catalyst is done.
The idea, at least, the whole idea of voting on projects is maturing. Reaching hundreds of millions that are winning, then it's because we get a lot of shit that goes through that shouldn't really be going through, and so at least there's some sort of guardian looking over that, saying that shit's not going to go through.
This is why Gitcoin
now until it grows, and then until everyone's voting, until you get a large voting amount, then once that happens, they're kind of partly irrelevant anyway. So I mean, that's the flip side. That's one way to look at it, at least.
I don't know. Like, if you look at it, if I look at it deep down personally, on a personal level, the CF made an adversarial move against me. I don't like that.
But yeah, and it's happened to quite a few unsuspecting.
Yeah, I mean, I get it, but I would
like we know you contribute to the ecosystem, and there was others as well. That
no, I'm just saying it wasn't me. I was just breaking it down from a single perspective. Like that's, I think a lot of, you're right. A lot of people felt that, it was okay. All right. It means to an end, but what means?
So like Intersect, should CF have elected board?
Yeah, but the way the Swiss work, I think the Swiss government instills the board. I don't even know if that's an option.
I don't think it's that the Swiss government instills the board. I think it's that when we had that reset after the Parsons for messing things up, the Swiss government had to reset the board, and now the board self-perpetuates, because it's like a lot of foundations where the current members of the foundation will nominate the next people when they're going off. Now there is also some sort of a council, and this is where I honestly have not taken the time to fully educate myself into CF politics as to what that part is. So there's also
I have a little idea how it works.
Yeah.
So do we have to infiltrate the CF like we did? I mean, we've already started infiltrating the CF. If you think about it, we got great community members already there. So do we need to infiltrate management?
Yeah, and that's the thing about the CF is that they have entire teams that are made up of people they recruited from the community, and those people are very dedicated to Cardano and making sure it goes forward. So,
if it's management that's the problem, then that's kind of where you go, But I don't know how CF works. Can you do a coup? I don't know.
Oh no, it'd be hard. But I mean, even with the management, you have to kind of, if you want to look at it from their perspective, I think that there was some sense of they think that they are protecting, ADA holders, because when they came to the convention, they were saying, there are things. What's that?
I was gonna say they could be protecting them.
From what it just depends on who you ask, right? Every revolutionary is also a criminal, right? So, they were like, when they came to convention, they said, you have deficiencies in this constitution that have to be addressed. And that's why we brought them up. And that's why there are delegates here who have talked to us who agree with this, and we want to be here to support them. And so from that perspective, it's like, yeah, I get it. You're here because you think that these are really important issues. We had a lot of conversations with them about Yeah, but you also have to like recognize that there's all the delegates to talk to. There's all the community leaders. There's the members of the ICC. There's a lot of people that aren't just you guys in Switzerland. So there's a lot of perspectives that you have to rally around.
So what was Sam Levers saying? I saw in a comment, like, yes, it should. Does anyone know what he was on about?
Voting the CF board.
Oh, right. I see. Right. Okay. I mean, that makes sense. If it's all public money, so it's not like they earned that money, right? They work for all ADA holders.
Devil's advocate, though, they were given that money to promote ADA. Yeah, they were granted that money to protect the Cardano ecosystem. And if they have a particular vision of what the Cardano ecosystem is, they should be fighting for.
Yeah, but
that.
I don't think
if we disagree,
and that should be voted on.
I don't think their job was to protect the ecosystem. I think their job was to promote.
Well, their part of their mandate was to work with regulators and government, that kind of thing. So that falls
growth
into that.
of the ecosystem.
I did see a set of regulation or a set of like almost like a quote of things that they are supposed to do. It was like a list of like 7 or 8 things that they are to like protect so and so, protect the ecosystem, help it grow, or whatever. So I don't. Yeah. Can we get
definitely ask some hard questions?
Can we get
ask some hard questions
from,
of if they're doing efficiently.
Can we get someone from CF on Spaceplace? Do we have?
Would love to.
You wake them up.
They don't watch.
Let's get on, right? When I worked in CF, and I think they're in a better state now, so I don't have anything negative to say. But back in the day when I worked in CF, I would have said there was a disproportionate emphasis on formal communication at the top that wasn't broadly understood, like a senior manager and lower, right? So a lot of people working very hard, doing good work. At that time, it's a different era. I'm not saying it's the same. You didn't know why things weren't getting, signed off, or how to move things forward. So yeah, I mean, you want to get someone from CF, you want to get the right people on, right? Because you can get on. If they're too junior, they'll have an interesting conversation with you. You need someone that has like insight and actual sway. But what we need more of is like, I think there's an existential thing with CF that I don't think IO has, because IO, in one sense or another, could go and build other stuff, right? Whereas CF is always going to be Cardano. So we need more like us and less us versus them. And I think all entities, so being, I'm attacking them all with equal vigor, IO, CF, and everybody, right, at different times has misstepped and made the community feel to a greater or lesser degree that it's us versus them, and that's a mistake. It has to be us and us and us, and we're all in it together, and that's what I'm hearing from you guys. I mean, I
feel like that with the whole crypto space, so I think it should all be us and us.
Hey, whoever the whistleblower is, you got to come on Spaceplace, or please come on Spaceplace. You ain't got to, but you should.
You can do it anonymously.
And anonymously, you can wear a mask and talk funny or whatever the hell you want to do. But I want to ask you questions, because you said a bunch of shit that seemed like was common knowledge if you're paying attention and close to it, but not that close to it. So I'm not disregarding it, but I get where you're coming from, but it wasn't any like super bombs, and I was expecting there to be super bombs with that type of insight. So and that's all. But if you want to come and elaborate, please do. That would be kind of interesting, because I've seen some weird shit too. Aside from that, like, this is interesting. Like, it's interesting what's happening. People are going to use their voting power. I think protocols are going to use their voting power, and everybody is doing so in the interest of themselves and or their constituents. So it's the shitty part is participation is so low. And so how do you do that? How do you really increase participation?
And Ben, to your point, you were talking about the 3 founding entities, trying to create win-win scenarios with the community. But as of recent, even the most recent incident that we had, it seems like, I like to give them the benefit of the doubt, but it seems like such a deliberate sabotage of the system. If you know basic math, you could have figured out that much voting power is going to completely sabotage the voting system.
They could have at least split the bags.
I get it. I get the other side of the story too, because it's like, oh, the protocol allows it. Yeah, I understand that. I totally understand that, and I would.
Aren't they part of making the protocol to a certain degree? Don't they have influence on what the protocol?
Well, yeah,
is?
of course, but I mean, at that point,
the protocol allows it.
The protocol allows it, but
maybe
at that point, you may as well just let Emergo and IOG in there too, and let them the three of them decide who's going to win Catalyst funding.
But
the
that's the
whistleblower
whole
was right.
thing.
Emergo seems to do not much. I don't.
No,
I'm not as in depth as you guys. Maybe you might see more, but I see Yoroi and
Emergo's irrelevant.
Yoroi's dope.
Yeah, but that's all I know. That's all I see. Like
that send all button.
I think the whistleblower doesn't know us
in their defense.
What? Hold on. What did you say, Adam?
I was going to say, like, either the whistleblower was intentionally holding back, or they were just, not really higher up in CF or whatever, and just putting together all the things that were already out there. Because this is all stuff, like other people have mentioned, this is all stuff that if you are deep in the community, you already know about, right? You know all the stressors, right? So it's like somebody went and put it all together. It might be that they are some higher level person in one of the entities, and they're just holding back so as not to reveal where they were. We can speculate, but yeah, I mean, this is clearly just a pissing match because Catalyst was an IOG product. Catalyst is not the blockchain. Catalyst is not governance on Cardano, no matter how many times they say so. Yes, it is the first example of doing governance on Cardano. It was an experiment, right? It was the way we tested how to give grants from the treasury, and it was very valuable. There are a lot of really great teams, really great projects that came from Catalyst, and so I don't want to diss that at all. And the people who worked in Catalyst to make it succeed, they deserve our gratitude and credit. But at the same time,
wasn't Catalyst also a good experiment for another thing as far as side chains go? Because Jormungandr, right? That's the chain.
Yeah, I was using Jormungandr.
Well, no, they got off of Jorm a while ago. They ain't using it. They're not.
Okay, yeah. But what I'm saying is that Cardano Foundation apparently decided they were going to conduct their own experiment. What happens if we show people when a whale enters the equation? And it was ungentlemanly. It was, a manipulation of the system. And this is why, like Gitcoin with quadratic funding, they are adjusting each round and like not telling people how they exactly adjust things to try to keep ahead of the game players. It is what it is. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of like when I saw it happen, I'm like, yeah, that's about right. That's what can happen in a system like this. It's just like the Ethereum incident, like the DAO hack. It's like, what do you want to do? Do you want to go back and change history, or do you want to say code is law and move forward? So let's try to learn from it either way.
Well, yeah, I agree with you. Like you're right. Code is law. The protocol's a protocol. This is what we built. This is what we all signed up for. But what we have that's special and different is integrity, right? We have a cordial kind of community that walks and maneuvers for the most part with integrity in class, right? Like it's Cardano standards. And so the CF kind of stepped a little outline of that. That's character's character. And hopefully I'm hoping it was because they were making a precision strike, because there's no other excuse other than if they weren't. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it was, and whether it's right or wrong, I'm not in that position.
They would have been planning it for a long time to go.
Well, yeah. I mean,
those projects would have taken weeks.
Yeah, if it was just like this little thing, like, hey guys, we're gonna use a little bit of our voting power and show everybody we're here and let's everybody vote, and it was like this serious thing, then that probably would piss me off a lot more, I think.
Well, they did in Fund 12. Well, they came in lightweight.
Like 10 million, like a little bit. That's fine. That's fine. That's totally fine.
I think that was their first. That was the first flare.
Well, they did it a few. Yeah, they've been easing into it totally. All right. Well, whatever. Did we lose Ant? Where'd Ant go? Ant left.
He rugged.
Got too real.
Do what?
Nothing. I was just joking. I said it got too real.
So, like, right now, if you wanted to know, like, what are the issues that are most important to DREPs, and like what the zeitgeist is, like, how would you go about doing that? Spend your day on Twitter?
I think honestly, the issue it's going to come down to is the budget. The Constitution, really, there's, from what I'm hearing, or at least know, there's a palpability to pass this. Now, I also think that, the whole let's get these definitions out, that was a little wonky. Like, it was not cool how that process went down, where everybody agreed to remove the word operation, and all of a sudden it was thrown back in with a contingency of definitions, and you changed the fucking whole scope of it to blockchain ecosystem. Like that, and it's like, what the fuck just happened? So that was my opinion, and that's why I would have voted no, is that I saw some rapid changes that I don't think should have happened in that manner. And it was really weird how that happened, because we started with one scope, got to a consensus on it, and then just totally annihilated it. And so and it's contingent on definitions and whatnot. But I don't know. I think budget's going to be the issue. I think amendments will come.
Let's say budget is the issue. I think there's like two ways that works, right? Budget gets proposed, DREPs go, and it's a no, right? And then Insect or whoever else is doing it has to try and work out why that no is a no, right? The thing I'm trying to advocate is it might make a lot more sense for DREPs as a body to kind of survey itself or self-report to each other, so that DREPs could say to someone like Insect or whatever the body is, here are the things that we actually want. So we're giving you a heads up, right? That if you want this to get voted on and passed, here's the 2 or 3 things that we want or we care about, right? So that they can tailor or edit or understand what the needs of their customers are before they go to the vote. So I think at the moment, we're only in a situation because everyone's acting as individuals.
Well, that's part of it, is that we're not being, the community's not being fed the information of the budget of what they're going to be voted on, right? Like, to my knowledge, that's still piecemeal part, right? The community can't give feedback. The DREPs can't they haven't seen anything yet. But what I'm getting at is that just when you look at what core costs and what research costs, now Catalyst is blown up. That's a lot of fluff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean,
Here's my point in a nutshell, right? There's like literally Ben and Kyle could talk about this on the call, and we could go back and talk to people that we all know. But if DREPs is a body or a group was to submit an interaction or something like that that said, we don't know what we're voting on, we need at least this much time, these are the problems that we've currently got with the current situation, then it's pinned on the church door or in the blockchain or wherever we're pinning it, right? And nobody can say that they didn't know that was the issue. That's what I see is a lot of people who are very, very active, but are all disjointed or disconnected, right? In and out of Insect.
Well, I mean, I think that's a lot of gathering stuff. I get it, but not going to get the reaction that would stop it until the information's available to get the reaction. You don't have a chemical reaction until you throw all the ingredients in. Ingredients are missing for the chemical reaction to occur. What's up, Adam?
And I was going to say, ideally, this is the way we're going to do it in the future, right? We're going to have people discussing this, and various groups that will come together and say, what are our priorities? What are the categories we can think of for next year? And we've got to start that pretty much in January of 2025 of what we're going to do in 2026. We're obviously, behind this year because of, it's Cardano. You either are 2 years delayed or you're scrambling to do something in 6 months. That's just the way we are as a blockchain. But and this is something I can ask about in the board meeting for Intersect this week is like, when are we going to get that, like what we have done so far? Because I think that, people really do want to see like what are the preliminary numbers, and I think that is I know that things are still being collected and people are still figuring it out, but we do need to have that debate so that it doesn't come to the fact that people see the budget and then just vote it down, like Kyle said, because that would be very, very bad for core infrastructure, and we don't want to be in that position. And so we have to figure this out before it comes up for a vote in a lot of ways.
Well, what I'm getting at it too is that we've just realized that the CF is going to make moves now. Like that is, like if they were like, okay, I'm going to be a governance player. That's one thing, but that's like the giant stepping up to the mountain, and he's like, fuck the little hill, smash right before he goes and eats the mountain. Like it was just a side swipe that didn't. It was an unnecessary thing that happened, and so if the budget isn't on point in that communication issue, that strategy of keeping it close so long doesn't work out, what you run is the risk of a competing budget. And that, you see what I'm saying? And now you've been caught flat-footed because the community was engaged right. So this thing of getting the D-reps to get, I mean, like there needs to be a strategy of socializing the budget to the community. And I don't know what that is or how that looks like or when that's going to be ready. But if it's shit, man, if it's within 8 weeks, it won't pass. That, like just me knowing the community, like there needs to be a long time to really vet stuff, because there will be items in there, I think, that may be politically untenable. Like the community, and I think that's partially why that it hasn't been released yet, is that discussion that's hard to have, especially if the longer it is, because the more you got to deal with it. But if it's not held, it's just risky.
Hasn't it even got spelling mistakes in it?
Cardando was in there when we got down to Argentina. I'm like, what? Cardando survived.
To be fair, that was an overnight right.
Right. Okay.
Oh, okay.
It actually made me happy. I was disappointed to know that it wasn't Cardanzo.
Yeah.
It was good, man. Cardando was cool.
In all fairness, like that was Danielle, like hour by hour revising the Constitution to match, to help be suggested edits of what the delegates were asking for. She was a champion of making sure to get down their notes. She is so good. She really did great work for the community. And the fact we did give her a hard time, it was Cardando instead of Cardonzo. So don't worry about it. We got you, Chris.
It's opportunities.
Chris, sorry for eating on camera, but I'm starving.
I got this delivered while trying to eat it on the sly.
All right, well, Chris, are we good on Spaceplace, man?
Yeah, there was something I wanted to say earlier, and I just got everybody was in a good role, so I didn't want to throw a wrench in the spoke. But
go for it.
I guess the one thing that I've thought about a couple times since the CF shared their version of the Constitution, when that happened, I was like, it would have been really cool if they would have done this a year and a half ago. Because then they could have been engaged in with everybody else who was in that process, and it just would have been more minds in the pot. And that was just kind of my, because I felt like this thing with the CF or with Catalyst Fund 13, it felt like an echo of that.
Well, I think. Go ahead, Adam. You got to.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, they based their version off of the July 20 draft. Right. So why wasn't it released August 20? That was my thing. That's what I asked them. Like, why wait until the very end? It could have been helpful to have that, while people were in synthesis sessions discussing things, because we had a lot of synthesis sessions, and I'm not going to say that the process was perfect. It was a difficult process. We had to try to get a lot of voices in there, and we weren't always as good as we could have been. But I feel like we ended up with the right thing of having a convention at the end that really took it seriously, and delegates who really took it seriously, of bringing in people's voices. So yeah, but yeah, if they had gotten that out earlier, it would have been a lot easier to synthesize in.
Hey Adam, did they say why they waited? CF?
They
said
said that they had made comments when some of their people had gone. They said that they had people go to some of the workshops and that their people had made comments, but they didn't see it getting in there, their comments getting in there, and so that's why they decided to do this one. I still feel like it was a bit later than it probably could have been, though.
And I do stand corrected. I was just corrected in the internal chat here. Nicholas was in quite a few of the different workshops.
Nico joined the.
And I think Lucas might have been
in
in some of them. And I'm sure there were other people too. So I mean, I don't want to throw everybody. Everybody at CF didn't do it, because there were people involved for sure, but it wasn't. I don't know. You guys know. You get it.
This is gonna be fucking funny.
Well, I can't speak for Nico because he didn't tell me either way, but it did not seem to me that he was the one bringing forward this version of the Constitution. He's their head of governance, so their head of governance didn't bring it forward. I'll just say that.
And from what I understand, I don't want to, again, with you, I don't want to speak on his behalf, but I think he did mention a couple times in Spaces that he had different ideas.
Oh yeah,
that weren't part of that.
He was a great participant. He was a great part of the civics committee. He jumped in right before we had our drafting session last summer in July, and then he was a great part of the workshops. So and as far as that goes, that example of how the CF has contributed and doing great things. And I think that if we can just get sort of all on the same page about the way that we work together, it'll be a lot better. Instead of having things be like talking past each other sometimes. Maybe I'll put it.
Yeah, I think Nick's a great guy. I've got the utmost respect for Nick, and I caught up with Alex and Nairobi first time, and he was really cool. I had a call with him earlier too. So there's like a lot of good people in CF. Yeah.
And I'll even say this.
Everyone I know connected with CF has always seemed great. I'm talking, these are lower end people, so.
I talked with Frederick at the convention.
How dare you call me lower end?
They would consider themselves lower end, I'm sure. Yeah. So.
Fred, I was talking with Frederick at the convention, and it seemed like he was satisfied that they had gotten their points across, that they had gotten their voices in, and he made indication to both me and Hosky. He said basically like he feels like this can go forward, and he feels like this can go on chain and pass. So as far as it goes, I feel like they wanted to make sure that they got their points across. They wanted to make sure they got their voices in there, and they did, and it sounds like they're going to support it. So that that part of it is a win. Let's just keep working on increasing our communication, front loading it moving forward.
Okay, so I guess
the Capital Developer Report just dropped, by the way. I put that in the chat, but I don't know if I saw it. I think it's like one of the best reports to read in the year. I love reading that stuff. Last year report, it was like the whole thing was a really small number of people really make the biggest impact in these ecosystems. Like, it's you reading all these stats, So I'm going to read that after this. Anyway, sorry it wasn't more fun, guys, or I didn't contribute enough. It's my first full space place.
Oh, you're good. You're good, man. Like, it's better if you're getting boozed up. It's helpful.
I am not coming onto your streams boozed up while you talk about founding pioneer entities on the
Hey, man. And it gets wild out here.
That's a cigar. You and me in cigar lounge, Kyle. That's where that conversation belongs.
Right on. Let's get
Ben, I've got one quick question, because I also stream this to the AdaPulse channel as well.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I'm trying to. My focus is more about onboarding newcomers. So a lot of new users or average users even, the whole DREP thing just going to be confusing for them. Can you quickly summarize what the role of a DREP is in the most simplest terms?
It's to represent the ADA that's delegated to them, so like a voting base, right? You have staple operators, they're running nodes, they're validating the network. I like a telephone exchange routing the transactions. The DREPs are people are putting their. Imagine you had like £1,000 in your bank account, right? And you can choose who's going to be giving you your interest and your rewards. That's the bank, and you always have the same amount of money. This is like, wasn't there an old thing around where people that got to vote were people that had the land, that had the rights to
It
vote?
definitely
You know
was
what I
in
mean?
the UK. Yeah.
Right,
Definitely
yeah. So
the UK.
so
The
that's what
Lord.
DREPs are about. Yeah, but at the moment, what's really interesting around DREPs is it's really emergent. It's an emergent role. Like Kara's touching this already. There'll be some voting blocks that will come from protocols or maybe from like lending DeFi or stuff like that, right? Meanwhile, there's going to be a lot of people that are trying to attract delegations so they can campaign. But the tooling in the platform at the minute is just about these DREPs almost voting in their self-interest or in their field of expertise, right?
What areas are they voting on as well?
Everything.
Catalyst?
Well, I mean, that's the contention, right? The contention is at the moment, like, what did they vote on? And they were like, is it 13 different actions, I think, Adam? I might be wrong. But the key thing is, yeah.
Why can't Catalyst be? Because, you know, if you talk
All right,
about
so
Bernardo Foundation, you've got...
Catalyst is a separate program. Catalyst is a separate program. So, so
no,
basically,
you've got that in
Catalyst is a line item. Yeah.
Catalyst is a line item. Yep.
Yeah.
So the DREPs will get to choose, and the DREPs who get to oversee the budget process because they vote whether or not the budget passes. They get to decide like what is the scope of Catalyst. Do we want Catalyst to Catalyst in the past has even allowed for what I would call like closer to core infrastructure or essential research to be funded, and so Catalyst now can say like, because we have items for that in the budget, we're no longer going to have categories for that in Catalyst because we're an innovation fund, right? So that can be part of it. So Catalyst can be a line item, and then Catalyst can run on its own.
In addition to that, though, like Josh was saying, for new users, if I was to really zoom out, right, people invested and got involved in Cardano because they wanted to see a change in the world, right? And in all of Web3 ecosystems, you will see these founding pioneer entities that begin these ecosystems, and then there's some success. Cardano is the first one, to my knowledge, that's really handing over governance to the community itself.
Yeah,
and when that handover takes place, there's billions in the treasury that are being handed over, right? So the reason it's so controversial is because DREPs fundamentally, now, however those votes take place, and maybe there's not enough votes and there's political stuff, but they're essentially going to vote on the checkbook and who gets to do what with the treasury. But Adam, tell me where I'm wrong, because I know you know more.
No, it's all good. Okay, and so just to sort of take a step back and look at this from a meta view, when Cardano started, it was a federated system, right? You had the whole network being run by three organizations: IOG, the CF, and Emergo. And then they introduced the stateful operators, the independent block producers. The entities would still be in charge of setting the roadmap and creating the software, but it was up to the stateful operators to decide, are we going to enact the software that is given to us by the developers, by the core dev. Well, now what we have the opportunity for is true on-chain governance, where all of the holders of ADA get to decide, what do we want to do with setting the direction of Cardano? So the ADA holders get to decide if they want to have withdrawals from the treasury, because we have this big treasury, 20% of all transaction fees and 20% of the coins being distributed still go into the treasury. And so the ADA holders get to determine who gets that to build new things for the blockchain. They also get to determine what the parameters are for the blockchain, how the blockchain will operate. They get to decide on hard forks of what upgrades the blockchain. And they also get to decide on things like the Constitutional Council and the Constitution, which are the basic, guardians of protecting their rights in the blockchain. Now we realize that not everybody who holds ADA has time to look for all of this, right? Most people are not like us. Most people are not sitting here talking or watching this space right now. They check in on their bags maybe once a month.
That's what I'm saying.
That's why we have DREPs, because DREPs are the people who can stand up and say, I'm involved. I'm willing to represent you. So if you delegate your ADA to me, I will be there to participate in governance. And so just the same way that when you designated a stake pool operator, you started getting rewards, you also designate a DREP, or you can choose to abstain, or you can choose to say no confidence. And then that is how you participate in governance.
Well, the
So-
DREPs,
So it's purely about governance, then? Is that really what
Purely about governance.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right.
will the DREPs have an opportunity to vote on line items in the budget or just categories?
That is up to the what
the debate.
DREPs vote on. That's a great question, Jane. Okay, so DREPs vote on whether or not the budget passes. Now, what's going to happen is there are going to be organizations out there suggesting how that budgetary process works. I happen to be a member of one of those organizations, Intersect, and so we have a team of people. Lloyd is doing some great work trying to get this set up.
I'm familiar,
and
right. Mhm.
And so they have to go out and prove that we have an idea of what we're doing, and that we're going to, say like this is how we suggest the budget is going to work going forward, and that we are ready to administer the funds and ask for withdrawals and administer the funds that people determine for the budget. And then the DREPs get to decide if they accept our budget, and if they accept or if they accept any other budgets, because there can be multiple budgets at the same time. So we
That's
have to
fair
be
because
talking with the
I had
DREPs.
Yeah,
But
I had
Ada,
asked
hold-
about multiple constitutions. I guess someone was telling me that technically that's not really possible. It has to be one at a time because of the way it's coded. It doesn't. The protocol doesn't allow more than one constitution to be voted on at any given time, unless it's deliberately given the same prefix number or whatever it was in order to do that. So, is the budget going to be the same way, or can you actually have multiple budgets submitted on chain for voting? That's one question I have. And then the other question is, I got the sense, and I did, watch video put out by Lloyd and have followed a lot of the discussions, and I get the sense that there's going to be, maybe there's a line for catalyst use, and maybe it's, however many million. Then that
Now that seems more important than ever, I think.
Yeah. So
in regard to the other stuff, it's just going to be marketing, and then not necessarily XYZ company getting the marketing. So if that's the case, then I'm wondering who makes the decisions on who gets the marketing, or is that still in process of being decided?
Yeah, so great questions. So first, thanks, Sam. So there is a difference between the Constitution and the budget. So the Constitution is actually a special thing that's built into our software now, where you have a budget, you have a Constitution that is referred to. Refer to that hash, and now everybody knows this is the current Constitution because we can go and look it up. And if you want to replace that Constitution, you have to say, my new Constitution is replacing the old Constitution. That's built into our system. The budget is not built into the system like that. But we have written the budget into the Constitution that we are proposing, and the interim too. So in order for any Treasury withdrawal to come out of the Treasury, that Treasury withdrawal must be within the scope of a budget. And that's part of the Constitution. And in order for the budget to pass, it has to go up for a vote by the DREPs, and the CC also has to look at it and make sure that the budget itself doesn't try to propose anything unconstitutional. And it also has to make sure it fits within this thing called the net change limit. It means that you don't drain too much ADA out of the Treasury within a given time period.
Right.
It
needs an info action first, right? Before you actually put the actual budget up, it has to be put up.
Oh.
I'm just trying to figure out what it's going to look like. Is it going to just have a marketing category, and it's not going to say which company gets the money, or is it?
It depends. It depends on each part is different. So there will be some parts that are going to be say core dev. Core dev will probably say we have secured contracts with these various companies to do these various things. And so when you look at like the core dev part of the budget, that'll probably be very specific. Now, I actually haven't looked into what the marketing part says. I don't know if that's finalized. When you look at the marketing part, it might say there's going to be a marketing working group and the marketing working group might have some priorities, and so they will be able to work with people. So that is another way you could do it. Because with the budget, you can have administrators, and the administrators are in charge of making sure the funds go to the right place.
I guess that's a whole nother layer that I haven't seen talked about a lot.
Yeah, it's going to be weird. And my problem is we're probably going to hit $5 at least this cycle. That's $1 billion fucking dollars on the market if we did 200 million. Like, that's wild, you know? So,
yeah. So
I don't know.
Lawrence has got into the context there that committees will be in with the intersect budget. We have committees that propose work, and then we have to have companies that certify they can do that work, do an RFP, and when they say that, we can then go forward with it. So that's part of the intersect budget process, and we're hoping that when the community sees this, that they will be that they'll think it's a good plan and want to support it.
Yeah. Is anyone aware of any other MBO that's working on budgets or any of this stuff?
Well, no, I mean, I think Intersect's really far ahead, and so we got to be, give a good amount of respect for that there.
Oh,
right?
I do.
But I don't know whether or not CF is maneuvering. There's and this was written in the chat earlier. Yes, CF was supposed to be the MBO. They were supposed to handle this. So we saw CF spin up Pragma. We're seeing CF poo on Catalyst. Why not?
Pragma was spun up by CF. Are you saying?
No, they were involved in inquiry. Yes, it's CF headed, I believe, with a handful of community organizations. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong there.
I would say CF isn't all bad. I mean,
no, they're not.
I see delegation twice from them.
They're taking care of me right now. I get it.
Yeah, you get. Isn't it a permanent delegation you get?
I think it's. I don't think it's permanent. I think it's periodic, right?
It's annual. Yeah.
Is it annual now? It used to be a few months when I was getting it, but then they sort of changed their strategy and sort of put it into major players.
Yeah, I got no problem with it. It's just like, man, it's like, damn, that was my reaction when they came out and just swung crap on the board.
I think a lot of people were because it was all people that were doing a lot of work for the ecosystem. So I think to receive it, they were all like, "Oh shit!"
You
see me
in regards to Pragma, and this is my understanding from hearing from some people, the folks at Pragma. And Steve just said this too. Pragma was a group of dev companies that came together who have like support from CF, and so CF says, "Yeah, we'll help support you," but it is not my understanding that CF went out and recruited them to make Pragma. It is they banded together and CF said that they would support them. That is my understanding.
That makes sense.
That's what I've heard from others.
That makes sense, and I can see CF playing that role. And CF is always. I mean, I've had a pretty good relationship with them over the past couple of years, all things considered. They're. I see them trying. I've seen them turn around in the organization. I was caught a little flat-footed by this. I was like, man, it was just brutal. Do you
agree with the argument that they just hop in on last minute and take credit?
It's their aid. They can do what they want to do.
No, not that. But I mean, the idea. I think the whistleblower message was the fact they sort of hop on ideas at work right at the end without contributing anything and trying to take credit for it.
Well, that's more, to me. That was an observation that an outsider would make, not an insider.
Yeah.
I
don't think they ever answered the question of why they waited so long to release their catalyst proposals that they voted on, because
no one would have voted though.
Yeah.
No one would have voted if they did it at the beginning. Everyone would have gone. Right.
Yeah.
There you go. It's done.
Or maybe it would have rallied people to do something about it if they had a month.
And then again, if they always only do it at the end, then people can still be fighting for votes, and you could still be fighting for votes that are both got the CF vote. Do you know what I mean? So if you've got two people, and if they've already been fighting for votes, then at the end, bang, CF delegation, then you've kind of got your answer 2 days early.
And the military advantage there too is, if IO or Emergo or some other big group or whatever has a huge stack of ADA that they're not staking, and it's set to the side, they don't have enough time to register it to be able to vote in Catalyst if there's only 2 days left.
Why should any? I can't imagine. I don't know why any, especially founding entity, should have ADA unstaked. They can just spread it out as much as they like. There's no excuse. Like, it supports the network. Why would you not do that? Like, I don't know why Charles stakes.
I'm just saying that's one potential.
Yeah,
one
it
potential
also only
advantage.
takes 2 seconds to unstake it, though, right? So
Yep.
But I mean, I suppose Charles delegates to his own pool. I guess
It would be wise.
Really.
Yeah, I mean, shit. CF shouldn't. I mean, ultimately, and I think they may. It's more profitable for them to run their own pools and stake their ADA to their own pools rather than, third-party stake pools.
Yeah, but I mean, that goes against the ethos a little bit of supporting the, helping the ecosystem grow. Spread it out.
It's their ADA. You know what I'm saying?
Well, is it? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, by law, it's theirs.
Well, they got the keys, I guess. So, but I bought my ADA. I don't know how everyone else got theirs.
Steve mentioned earlier there was, I guess Charles did a video this morning, kind of talking about.
I haven't seen it.
And I hadn't either. I want to go check it out. I just here we go. There's the comment that Steve had earlier.
Well, that's what the whistleblower said, pretty much.
Yeah, and to Kyle's point, and other people have pointed this out too. But I guess the good thing about the whistleblowers thing was that it kind of just gave a timeline.
Is Charles the whistleblower?
That's what I heard.
Oh, really? From Charles?
No, I'm just kidding.
I thought it was Pay.
he never worked for Curry.
Adam, you know a lot about it. It must have been you.
I thought I knew who it was, but
No.
Kyle disagreed with me. I'm not going to say any names though.
I'd like to say it
This
was me,
time I'll
but
not say.
you know,
anything.
I don't know that much knowledge about about all of that.
Fucking funny times.
Okay, yeah, it was me. I sent it. Yeah.
Did we lose Ben?
Yeah, he had to drop.
Okay. Who's that? Who's the black screen?
That's Jade.
Okay.
You're not allowed to see her face.
Yeah. No, I figured that much.
It's a secret.
She would make us look a lot uglier than we already are.
For our benefit.
Not at all.
Nobody can do magic, Chris.
I think we have seen Jane's face before, haven't we? It's not completely undoxed.
I've seen her clay.
Excuse me.
I've seen her clay.
Whoa.
Damn it.
I posted. I think I posted a photo from years ago, but nothing current.
Well, guys, I have a heating apparatus I have to install tonight.
Okay. Yeah, let's cut it. I'm good. Good conversation. Unless anybody has any closing final thoughts.
No, it's all good.
Many loves.
Be well, all.
Buckle up.
Good to see you, Jane.
Bye, guys.
Thanks for all the hard work.
Bye.